The authors of the original story for Public Enemy were two guys from Chicago named Kubec Glasmon and John Bright. And it was based upon their novel called Beer and Blood, and a number of scenes in the film are drawn from actual gangland events.
And so the violence and, if you will, arrogance of the characters in the early Warners is made possible by the underlying reality, the fact that the viewers knew these people were real.
Glasmon and Bright, as longtime friends and growing up in Chicago, does relate to the opening of the film in a way in which the kind of history of the saloon and of the... There are many legends about casting Public Enemy. Zanuck tells his version, Wellman tells his version, Glasmon and Bright tell their version. What seems to have happened, they definitely cast Wood as Tom and Cagney as Matt. And then about 2 weeks before the film was scheduled to start, Cagney suddenly was put into a film called The Millionaire with George Arliss.
Hey, you'll excuse me crashing the gates, but I saw you in the garden. You're Mr. Alden, ain't you, with the Alden motor car?
Cagney comes in as an insurance salesman, and he's definitely the New York lingo guy.
If I was a man like you know what I would do?
No, what?
Well, I'll tell you.
Well, Mr. Bones, if you were a man like me, what would you do, Mr. Bones?
I wouldn't sit around and wait for the undertaker. Did you ever read the business chances in the newspaper?
Business chances? Can't say I have.
Well, here we are. 3 columns of them. For sale, best paying barbershop in town. Be a butcher, going concern. No, half-finished in busy beauty parlor. Lay off the busy beauties.
He happened to walk away with that picture. He wasn't the star of the movie, he was a support. Well, when a support walks away with a movie, you're going to build a picture around him. You're going to build a campaign. You're going to put him in a star vehicle.
Wellman realized that the guy he's going to have to go with is Cagney, and they reversed the roles, and that was it.
Cagney really brought Public Enemy was one of Jean Harlow's first major roles. She had been in Hell's Angels, the Howard Hughes film. He had her contract. Warner Brothers borrowed her from Hughes's company Caddo for the film, which was an extravagance for Warner Brothers.
What made Harlow at MGM, of course they don't use this here, is that heavenly look, you know, the platinum blonde, the silky gowns.
Harlow brings kind of inimitable quality to the role. It's very striking.
And she talks like someone from...
At first, the tone of it bothers me. It sounds like it's not quite well done. But she has a presence that's beyond acting, that is on the screen, something that has to be reckoned with, you know.
Public Enemy is significant both for the arrival of a great acting talent and a great directorial talent.
William Wellman was one of Warner's contract directors in this period. He was a very good action director. He was working a lot in those days, you know, making 4 or 5 films a year.
He was in the Lafayette Escadrille, the flying World War I planes. He got in a plane accident. I believe the stick that you use to fly the plane, I don't know, whatever, you know, those little, went through the bottom of his neck here into his palate, and was known as Wild Bill, and was known as a ferocious fighter for what he believed in and the kind of films he wanted to make.
Jack Warner was always cracking the whip. He wanted a certain number of minutes shot every day and so on. So the range of what a director could do may have been fairly limited.
But I find it very interesting. As tough as it is, there's an elegance to the photography, to the way he sets up scenes. There's an elegance to the scene, for example, in which Tom and his friend Matt Doyle go and they do the job for Putty Nose in the fur warehouse, and they have to shoot a cop. And there's an extraordinary shot, a very elegant shot of the cop, just his arm on the ground with the gun in his hand, and it's gleaming. It looks like something out of a silent film.
William Wellman really makes that film work. Moving camera, the angles he chooses, the placement of the characters within the angles he chooses. It works so well. It's really a very well-directed film with a great performance in it and a very powerful story.
This is real street stuff, I think, and particularly the ending. And he fought to get the ending, Wellman, which is a very strong ending and a very truthful ending. And it was even more moral ending, I think.
I think any viewer going to these movies will understand that these characters are somewhat pitiful. A lot of them are constrained by their environments into behaving in a violent way because it's the only answer that they feel society has given to them. But I think what these movies say is you have to find an alternative, because if you don't, you will end up dead, and it won't be a pretty end.
Again, that's a brutality and a crudity that really shocks the audience, especially at that time. Now, these days, it's a different thing, but one didn't expect to see that for a long period of time in Hollywood, classical Hollywood cinema. You didn't get that sort of thing.
Warner Brothers' legend was he was only supposed to simulate or pretend that he was going to do it, or to give it to her just a certain way, threaten her. That's what he was supposed to do. And of course, when he did it, it shocked. And then it brought the house down in places. I mean, even reviewers.
It's based on an incident in Chicago gangland, where one of the gangsters supposedly shoved an omelet into the face of his girlfriend.
Next year, when they teamed Mae Clarke and Cagney together in Lady Killer, he's got one that even does better than the grapefruit. He takes her by her hair and drags her across 2 hotel rooms into the corridor. This is amazing.
And there's something about Cagney in the picture where he just lets it go. He doesn't care. He gives himself to the character. Good, bad, indifferent. He just does it.
In terms of the violence in a gangster picture, whether from Warner's or another studio, I think the expressive tradition in which they work goes back a long ways. They're no more grisly than, say, an Italian opera or Shakespeare play. I think the difference in movies is that you can add a level of realism.
Public Enemy is probably the most brutal of them all, in a way. And yet, you never see the violence. The violence is all off screen. It makes it worse. Watching that, it was much more horrific than any of the bloodshed you could have shown. I just said, Marty, why haven't you done it in your films? Well, I don't make them that way, I guess. But I just can't. I really liked it as a kid, and I kept going to see it often in different theaters. And before I knew it, I was more or less studying it, I guess. One of the key things that happened was that I found the score, the music score, very effective. And I didn't understand what it was for a while, but then I realized there's no music score. It's all source music. I was working on a picture called The Aviator, and it's about Howard Hughes in the early days, and particularly about, in the beginning of the film, Shooting Hell's Angels, which is a film with Jean Harlow, etc. And I, as research, I showed the actors 2 films, Public Enemy and Wings. Now, Public Enemy was important because I wanted Leo DiCaprio to understand, as Howard Hughes, what Howard Hughes was up against, what he had to top when he came into town and made Scarface. That night we showed Public Enemy in 35 millimeter, a little screening room in Los Angeles, and there were some other young actors there, some people on the crew, and something